The Utah State Legislature has passed the Utah DAO Act, granting DAOs legal recognition and limited liability protections. Under the new provision, DAOs will be legally framed as Utah LLDs. Will, I'm going to pass this one off to you. Is this a win for DAOs, and are we going to see the DAOs flocking over to Utah?
I guess define what a win for DAOs is. I still don't understand the purpose of a DAO at this point because it's been years. There's been so many talks of them, but most of the time it's just like your friends in a group chat and you'll have tokens you allocated to yourself. So I don't really get it. That being said, there are these people who work on DAOs, such as Jen Sanasi, and they push DAO legislation to these different legislators in different states, and they seem to be getting stuff done. We saw it in Wyoming a few years ago, and now we're seeing it in Utah. I believe there's something happening in New Hampshire with this as well. The idea is, well, if we can make this group chat with their friends, why not just make it legally protected, sort of like an LLC, but we're all members on this joint charter, and then we can do some investment stuff together. And that's fine. It seems to work pretty well, seems to be a thing. And yeah, I guess that's all I really have thoughts about it, because I don't really know where they're going to go with this, right? Like, we've seen a few companies, if you could call them that, or DAOs spin up with the Wyoming deal, but there hasn't been a ton that are really that notable, right? So I don't know. Jen, I'm going to throw it over to you to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I still am making sense on how like state legislator works when there is like no clarity when it comes to federal law, right? And so I read the story and I think about some of the recent legal actions that have been taken against DAO. UkiDAO is the one that stays at the top of my head. And UkiDAO was served in their Discord server, right? Making every single contributor of that DAO, meaning anyone who holds a token of that DAO, possibly exposed to legal action. There have been some DAOs after that who've put some funds together for as an insurance policy, if this were to happen, to lawyer up and help their contributors out. So I think that this is interesting. The Act defines ownership of DAOs and protects DAO compliant anonymity through bylaws. There's also some tax stuff in there. So it really gives these organizations that, like you said, Will, are still trying to figure out how to operate within the legal frameworks of the traditional world, some flexibility. Another key point of this is they are putting flexibility and innovation first. I don't know exactly how they're doing that, but that language is used a lot here. So they're willing to work with DAOs to kind of figure out how this law should be iterated on. I don't know, though, how that is going to stop federal regulators from looking at these DAOs and saying, one, is your token a security? Two, like, what are you people doing? Are you paying tax? Is this a company? We don't know how to look at it under any framework. Zach, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I like the geography of this. So, Will, you mentioned Wyoming. We got Utah on the board. We got New Hampshire. There's sort of this like libertarian like nexus of states that I think are interested in the concept of like crypto powered exit from society. I read this Vanity Fair piece the other day on the plane. I'm really bullish on it. It's called West of Eden. And Wyoming features prominently, in addition to, some key crypto thinkers such as Balaji Srinivasan, the Urbit Project, and other things, about these people who are saying, okay, we can form DAOs, we can use crypto to sort of exit the state, right? And I think that has long been a sort of libertarian fantasy. And now you see state legislatures in Wyoming, now Utah, potentially New Hampshire, sort of giving some legal protection and some legal footing to people who want to establish new organizations such as this. So I think that is actually quite fascinating within the context of the US, which, Jen, you're right to mention sort of the question marks at the federal level as to what protections will actually be available to some of these folks should they set up shop in Utah or Wyoming. But it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be really interesting to see if any of these take off. It's still early days for sure. All right, last thoughts, Will. What do you got?
I just love your big dad energy coming out this morning, hitting the geography subjects hard.
Yeah.
You got a map of soil distribution in California behind you.
Backwards hat on.
This is true.
Come on.
You might be in the digital age, but you are firmly planted in the 19th century talking about maps.
Hello, fellow young people.
That's all I got.
It's all good.
That's all I got.
All right. I'm a Steve Buscemi myself.